The café went dead silent the moment Li Wei slapped the receipt onto the floor and sneered, "Your slop's not worth a quid." Tommy Green, owner of Tommy's Brew, ex-martial artist, and Jason Statham's oldest friend, stood behind the counter, steadying his breath. The late-morning crowd had been laughing moments ago. Now, they stared in stillness. An elderly couple froze mid-sip. A barista's hands shook behind the espresso machine. Li Wei didn't care. He leaned over the pastry case like a predator sizing up prey. Tall, lean, and cocky, his sharp kung fu training was matched only by his sharper tongue. "I don't pay for garbage," he snarled, stepping back and bumping a table hard enough to spill tea all over the elderly couple nearby. "Oops," he said with a smirk, before spinning to Tommy. Tommy stepped forward, calm but firm. "That's enough, Li. Pay for your order and leave." Li laughed, cold and loud. "You still think you're some dojo master? You're a washed-up loser selling croissants." Then, without warning, he shoved Tommy backward. The corner of the counter caught Tommy's arm with a crack. A sharp gasp ripped from him as he dropped to one knee, blood running down from a nasty slice near the elbow. Customers stood frozen. One woman covered her mouth. Another reached for her phone. Tommy's eyes clenched in pain, but he still tried to stand, teeth gritted. Li cracked his neck and turned as if to walk out, triumphant. That is when he noticed the figure rising from the back corner. Jason Statham. Standing slowly, calmly, shoulders square, eyes fixed. No panic. Just ice. He stepped forward. Li scoffed. "What's this? Movie tough guy wants a shot?" Jason didn't blink. "You just spilled the last drop you'll ever get away with," he said, voice low and razor-sharp. The crowd held its breath. Jason took another step forward. Li Wei smirked and cracked his knuckles. It was already too late. The fight had begun, and Li didn't even know it. Before we proceed, like and subscribe to catch Jason Statham's epic face-off with a kung fu thug, and comment where you're watching from today. The morning had started out like any other in Sydenham. A light breeze carried the smell of toasted sourdough and fresh coffee down the block. Tommy's Brew, nestled on the corner, buzzed with quiet chatter and the hiss of steamers. Warm, familiar, dependable. Inside, Tommy Green moved behind the counter like clockwork, pouring cappuccinos, sliding plates, cracking dry jokes with the regulars. The man had rhythm. A soft smile under a graying beard. A limp in his left leg from an old injury, but he never mentioned it. People respected Tommy, not because he demanded it, but because he gave it first. And seated in the back, hoodie half-zipped, sipping black coffee without a word, was Jason Statham. No flash, no fanfare, just presence. Tommy's oldest friend. They had grown up sparring in dusty garages, then losing touch, then reconnecting years later. Jason had seen 100 film sets, flown to more countries than he could count, but Tommy's Brew always brought him back to earth. Then the bell above the door rang, and the energy shifted. Li Wei walked in like he owned the place. Lean frame in a tight bomber jacket, every step exaggerated, chin tilted upward. His eyes scanned the room, daring someone to hold eye contact longer than a second. No one did. He was known in town, not for kindness or skill, but for cruelty. Once a gifted kung fu practitioner, now reduced to picking fights in pubs and sneering at anyone beneath him. Tommy had dealt with him before. A snide comment here. A free coffee taken without asking there. But today, the tension crackled. Li ordered a latte and a cinnamon bun, tossed coins on the counter like he was feeding a dog, then plopped into the seat closest to the front door. Feet up on another chair. Loud, on purpose. He eyed the patrons, especially the older couple sipping Earl Grey by the window. When Tommy brought the drink over, Li didn't say thank you. He downed the latte, tossed the cup on the floor, and grinned. "Hope you washed your hands, old man." Tommy just raised a brow. That's enough. But it wasn't. Not for Li. He stood slowly, chest puffed, voice rising. "You still pretending this cafe thing's working out? You're a failed fighter with a cash register." Then, suddenly, he struck. The shove was violent. Tommy reeled backward, his arm catching the sharp edge of the prep counter. Blood. Gasp. Jason stood, jaw tight, chair scraping the floor. The temperature dropped. The mood turned. The café was no longer a place of comfort. It was about to become a ring. The café froze. Mugs clinked against saucers, unsettled hands trembling. The elderly couple stared in horror, the woman gripping her husband's wrist. A barista near the espresso machine instinctively ducked, peering from behind a jar of biscotti. No one moved. No one breathed. Except Jason Statham. He stepped away from his chair with steady precision, the same way he might walk into a stunt sequence or a real fight. No rush, no noise. Just calculation. His boots landed softly on the tiled floor, every movement coiled with tension. Li Wei stood by the prep counter, laughing to himself, clearly proud of the chaos he had caused. He had not seen Jason rise. He did not feel the weight of the moment. Yet. Tommy groaned as he leaned back against the shelf, his right sleeve soaked in red, gripping the cut to slow the bleeding. But his face said more than pain, it said embarrassment. In his own café. In front of his customers. His friend. Jason's voice cut through the silence. Pick up the bill. Li turned, finally noticing him. What? Jason didn't blink. You made a mess. Clean it up. Li's smirk returned. Oh, look who's talking now. What are you gonna do? Glare me into submission. He chuckled, motioning with his chin. You may be a movie star, mate, but this is the real world. Jason stepped closer. The distance between them closed like a trap snapping shut. I've been in the real world, Jason said. And you just made a mistake. Li raised his arms in mock surrender. Or what? You gonna perform one of your Hollywood fight scenes? Spin kick me into the muffins. Laughter, forced, echoed off the walls, but no one else joined in. Then, without warning, Li launched a high, flashy roundhouse kick straight toward Jason's head. It was quick, flashy, but predictable. Jason ducked, fluid as smoke. He caught Li's leg mid-air, twisted his hips, and yanked him down. The impact wasn't loud, but it was heavy. Li slammed back first into the floor, knocking over a chair as he groaned, wind rushing from his lungs. Jason didn't gloat. He didn't shout. He waited. Li scrambled up, red-faced, angry, kicking aside a fallen milk crate. You want to fight? Fine. Let's fight. Jason removed his hoodie. Calmly. Deliberately. His stance shifted. This was no scene. No choreography. This was real. And Li Wei had just picked a fight with the wrong man, in the worst possible place. Jason Statham's friend's cafe. Customers backed away, phones up, the whole room charged with dread and anticipation. The real fight was about to begin. Jason stepped forward, calm but coiled. His boots pressed into the cafe scuffed wood floors like they were marking a battleground. Li Wei rolled his shoulders with theatrical flair, smirking like he was stepping into a dojo match. The customers froze, some wide-eyed, others backing away with chairs scraping softly. Tommy clutched his bandaged arm, blood soaking the tea towel wrapped around it. You gonna act too? Li scoffed. This your little comeback movie? Maybe throw in slow-mo. Jason's expression did not change. Li snapped his leg up, fast, sharp. A flashy roundhouse kick meant to intimidate. But Jason moved faster. He ducked under it, twisted with the momentum, and grabbed Li's leg mid-air. With a vicious jerk, he pulled the man off balance. Li slammed down on the floor hard, elbows crashing into the tile with a thud. Jason did not hesitate. Before Li could rise, Jason kicked a cafe chair aside and closed the distance. Li scrambled up, swinging a wild hook. Jason weaved under it, countered with a sharp elbow to the ribs. The air rushed from Li's lungs in a grunt. He staggered back, bumping into a table and knocking over a half-full espresso. Jason advanced. Li tried to use his flair again, a spinning back kick aimed high. Jason stepped inside it and caught his hip mid-rotation, slamming him into a table. Plates shattered. Silverware scattered. The cafe was a war zone now. Li rolled off, furious, and grabbed a ceramic mug from the counter. He hurled it like a projectile. Jason ducked, just barely. The mug exploded against the wall behind him. Hot tea splashed down the tile. Jason did not blink. He walked forward. Li backed up, but Jason was relentless. The next exchange was a blur. Li punched, Jason blocked. Li swung. Jason twisted and countered. Jason's forearm cracked into Li's neck. A knee buried deep into Li's thigh. Another hook to the gut, this time hard enough to fold him. Li gasped, holding his stomach, eyes wide. Jason grabbed him by the collar and drove him backward through the café aisle. A table collapsed under their weight. Both men hit the floor. Jason got up first. He pulled Li by his shirt and rammed him into the side of the fridge near the barista counter. Glass jars shook. Li's body thudded against it, dazed. Jason dropped him and stepped back. Li rose, blood on his lip now. Still breathing heavy, but the bravado cracked. "Still think you're the top dog?" Jason asked, his voice low and even. Li lunged, teeth clenched, going for a desperate tackle. Jason sidestepped. Li crashed shoulder first into the bakery display. Glass shattered, pastries went flying. The crowd gasped, covering their mouths. Jason walked up as Li crawled out of the mess. "This isn't a tournament," Jason said. "This is real." Li threw one last strike, wild, reckless. Jason caught his wrist mid-air, pivoted, and slammed him down onto the hardwood with a thundering throw. The impact echoed. Li's breath fled his chest. He did not get up. Jason grabbed the back of his jacket, opened the cafe door, and dragged him to the edge. With one fluid motion, he tossed Li out onto the sidewalk, sending him skidding across the concrete. A stack of milk crates fell with him. He groaned, face bloodied, breath ragged. Jason stood in the doorway, chest heaving lightly. "You ever touch this place again, I'll break more than your pride." Li didn't answer. He rolled over and crawled away. Inside, the cafe was still. Then someone clapped. A second joined in. And then the whole room erupted into stunned applause. The elderly couple stood, one of them nodding with tears in her eyes. Tommy, still behind the counter, chuckled through a wince. "Still know how to throw a punch, huh?" Jason walked over and gently helped him sit. "You all right?" he asked. Tommy nodded. "I am now." Jason sat beside him, just for a second. Just long enough for the neighborhood to know, this cafe, this friend, was protected. Jason crouched beside the counter, gently checking Tommy's arm where the gash was still seeping through the cloth. Tommy winced as Jason unwrapped the makeshift towel. "Hold still," Jason said quietly, grabbing a fresh apron from the rack and tearing it clean down the middle. "This will hold until someone stitches it properly." Tommy let out a breath, equal parts pain and relief. "Still wrapping better than my last nurse," he joked. Jason didn't laugh. His hands were steady, his face calm, but his jaw remained tense. Across the room, the shaken customers began to stir. Chairs were lifted. A few broken cups were carefully set aside. The elderly couple stood, the woman wiping her eyes, and slowly approached the counter. Jason turned toward them. "Let me make it up to you," he said simply, walking over and pouring 2 fresh cups of tea with quiet precision. He placed them gently on their table, even refilling the sugar bowl that had spilled during the chaos. "No charge. Ever." The old man nodded, voice cracking. "That wasn't just a fight, son. That was justice." Jason gave a small nod, then turned back to Tommy. "Li won't come back," he said. "But I'll have a private firm do rounds here. Keep an eye on things for a while. No charge there either." Tommy blinked. "You don't have to." "I do," Jason cut in gently. "Because people like him don't stop until someone makes them. And places like this, good places, need more protection than pride." Tommy looked down at his torn sleeve, then around his cafe. The regulars were still here. No one had left. And they were watching Jason not like a movie star, but like a man who had made them feel safe. Jason grabbed his coat from the back of the chair. As he headed for the door, Tommy called out, "Same tables waiting next week." Jason smiled without turning around. "You better have stronger tea." With that, he pushed the door open. The early dusk light spilled across the café floor. The crowd watched as he vanished down the block, his steps steady, quiet. And for the first time all day, the café felt whole again. As the last of the afternoon sun faded behind the rooftops of Sydenham, calm returned to the small café. Inside, customers spoke in hushed tones, not out of fear, but out of newfound respect. Some people talked about the fight. Others talked about the way Jason stepped in, without fanfare, without hesitation. But Tommy... He just looked at the blood-stained apron and smiled. Not because of the violence, but because someone still remembered what loyalty looked like. Outside, a teen with a delivery bag passed Jason on the sidewalk and stopped. "You were inside, right? That guy. He had it coming." Jason glanced back toward the café, his tone low but clear. "Some people train to hurt," he said, tightening his coat. "Others train to protect. Big difference." Then he walked away. No spotlight. No cameras. Just a quiet echo that would replay in every heart that witnessed what happened at Tommy's Brew.